and welcome to another episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. We are the Who Dat Jedi. Who are the Who Dat Jedi? That's us. It's me, Aaron, and with me as always is Dave and Fredo. Hi, guys.
Hello.
And Fredo's audio just went goofy on his new laptop right there, so it sounded like he was drowning in a Sprite bottle for a second. I'll let you say hello again.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello. Hello.
So I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. We're recording this the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. We're not going to talk Saints football.
No.
No, that's just not. Except all the Buffalo fans. Oh my goodness. But no, actually, I went back to Nebraska for my niece's wedding. Then Friday, Brittany and I did. So Friday through Monday, and I'm waiting for my nose to, like, I'm going to say undry, because the minute that I know that's not a word, sue me, but the minute that, and Dave can back this up. We were talking about this a little bit, being a Kansas guy, the Midwest, it's just dry, especially in the winter time. And it's like, oh my God, start itching and your nose just turns to nothing but boogers, and it's just bad. And then you can't wait to get back to New Orleans, where it's like, humidity. Hooray. So
yeah, the moment you set foot outside the airport, you go, yes, it's all wet out here.
But the funny thing is that we fly through Atlanta, and anytime we fly through Atlanta, we make sure, Brittany is always this way. Sometimes I'm just not aware, but this time was. So we're both in Saints gear, because when you're going through the Atlanta airport, you just have to troll the Atlanta people. And we're on our plane, and the flight attendant comes up, and it was the mother of Saints punter, Mr. Gillikin. Yeah. And she was happy to see people wearing Saint stuff, start talking the football game and everything. And so that was kind of fun. So brush with celebrity, I suppose.
And it's good to talk to somebody's fan who's related to a player that,
is doing good.
Is doing good. You don't feel any of that, I've been kind of critical of your kid online, none of that. No guilt.
Well, I remember when I met, you don't want to give any of those backhanded compliments. It's like early on when, I'm a fan of Port Orleans, first of all. I want to be out there, fan of Port Orleans. But when they first launched, they launched their beers too soon. And they just weren't ready. They were watery, and they just wanted to get a product out there, I'm sure. And so is at my office building, and Zach Streif was getting on the elevator with me, because the radio station is the floor below where my co-working station is. And I remember sending a message to all of our friends saying, yeah, I just met Zach Streif. And I think, Fredo, you said, did you tell him how you like Port Orleans? And I said, I didn't say anything, because I figured that, hey, your beers are getting a lot better would be kind of a crappy compliment to give. So,
Yep.
Being a teacher kind of gets you, preps you for some of that. How about you guys? Good Thanksgivings?
Yeah, it's fine. We did the whole thing. My wife had a follow-up surgery the week of, so things are a little chaotic for us, but we had a nice meal.
I'm sure she cooked everything still.
No, we
really?
were, if you know her, she's like impossible to slow down.
Yeah.
And so we did do a good job of sort of planning ahead and doing a lot of prep work, like making the desserts in advance and things like that. And so that way she was able to be really involved. And then day of, I took lead with another family member. But she was still like, I'm doing the rolls and I'm doing the gravy. And it's just like, okay, all right. As long as you don't do anything else.
And she's doing well. Yeah.
Yeah. She's recovering. So we're doing good.
And Fredo, you picked up all the food, right?
Yeah, because my family, my brothers are all scattered now, living in different cities. They kind of had the choice to go whether we got together for Thanksgiving or Christmas. So everybody went coming for Christmas. So this Thanksgiving was only 4 of us, myself, an aunt of mine, and my parents. So basically we just said, my mom has been having PT because she broke her wrist the Sunday
Oh,
we got back from Houston after Hurricane Ida. Literally within 90 minutes of us being back from Houston. So I was like, no, we're not cooking. We're not doing anything. Nobody needs to be slaving over no stove. So we basically ordered everything. Got a couple of really nice sides from Gabrielle's
Mm-hmm.
restaurant in Orleans. Got the shrimp and mirliton casserole. Got the cornbread and Dewey sausage stuffing. And made sure to order at least a quart of their bourbon milk punch, which they say it's very boozy. They're not lying. It's very good.
so
So I had pretty quiet, pretty good Thanksgiving dinner. Went out with our good friend Susan to go see Rent on Friday. That was a good show. I'd never seen the play itself, like in a theater. I'm not cognizant of Rent and everything, but I'd never seen it in person. So it was really nice to catch that. And then
that's a good one.
just settled in for a lot of college football over the weekend.
So, Dave, did you and Fredo? This is not a video podcast, but you see my new addition to my Star Wars room.
Yes, it's really impressive, and it's perfect for New Orleans.
Yes, it's.
That's right.
I had the artist Simone make me a do or do not. There is no try. So I was really excited about that because it was actually kind of funny because he posts on his Instagram when like people don't pick up custom orders, and he had a Star Wars one, and I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, I want that one. So I went down to go get it, and somebody had already bought it, and and I was like, oh, that's a bummer. He's like, I can make you another one. I was like, you can? He's like, yeah. So how much? He said, oh, same price. So like, cool. Well, does it have to be that same thing, or can we do something else? Yeah, do something else. So I decided. I walked around for a little bit. What did I want? And I was like, yeah, okay, I need the Yoda because I use that all the time when I'm teaching. And
What did the other one say?
the other one was a Death Star, fund the Death Star or something like that. Fund the rebuilding. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was different colors than the standard Simone red. But when I went to pick it up, he first of all I walked down because I called and I went down on my lunch and to go get it. And I went back and said, "You got a custom order for me to pick up?" He's like, "Which?" I said, "The do or do not. There is no try." And his eyes just lit up, and he said, "Oh, this is a good one." And he had to actually hide it behind the counter because he had it hanging up, and people wanted to buy it. So anyway, so that was my just Christmas gift to myself. But all right, well, I don't know what else we got. Let's just do some Star Wars trivia tonight. This episode, we're going to. It's basically going to be all the news that we haven't been talking about. So it's going to be, there's a lot of stuff for us to discuss that have been, talked about, like I said, in the news wires, whatnot. So that's what we're going to do. And maybe just a little bit of Hawkeye talk here in a bit. But first, trivia. So, All right. Well, okay. Dave, it's time to throw you a softball.
Oh.
What aliens does C-3PO deride as disgusting creatures?
Jawas.
It is Jawas. It is. Like I said, that was a softball.
Yeah.
It's a softball.
I'll take it.
There's a little bit of, there's a little bit of intergalactic racism that goes on in Star Wars. Especially in New Hope.
Yeah, and you really see it with the droids, right?
Uh-huh.
We don't serve their kind here, right?
Well,
you see that...
but then you have, like I said, C-3PO talking about Jawas as disgusting creatures, and then they call the Tusken Raiders sand people. It's like
Tatooine is like New York City back in the 1800s with all these different nationalities mixing and hating one another.
Now that we've just ruined Star Wars for everybody. Fredo, you're going to say something?
Well, no, I was just going to say real quick, but let's do consider that 3PO's position on Jawas is colored by the fact that they did capture him and sold him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's not going to have, he's not going to be in the best of positions to be objective about their qualities.
That's true. All right, Fredo, your question.
Mm-hmm.
Who stares with See, I don't have my glasses on. Who stares with red-ringed yellow eyes out of a red and black face? Oh, who stares with red-ringed yellow eyes out of a red and black face?
Was the red and black face as the giveaway, and that would be Darth Maul.
Darth Maul. When I first started reading that, did you say, what kind of BS question is this going to be?
Exactly. Where are you going with this?
All right. And
Like
for
the
me,
name of the color of a ship, the name of a fighter jet. What the heck?
oh man, here's another softball. It's the first one I saw. That's softball to me. Who winks at Princess Leia during A New Hope's medal ceremony? That is Han Solo. Dun, 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 dun. I think we had that one before, didn't we?
I don't think so, but it's so obvious that.
Yeah, that's clearly him. There was one time we had a question. I think it was like, who stands on the left?
Or who got
Or
their
something
medal
like
first
that.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, who got the medal first? And it was just like, wait a minute. We were second guessing ourselves for 5 minutes.
Yep.
All I do know is that when Luke got his medal, he got to look down the front of Princess Leia. I mean, she leans over a little bit, so.
That's what happens when you're too short to be a stormtrooper.
That's right. That's right. All right, cool. Well, okay, so done with trivia. I do want to just take a little path off. We're going to get off the beaten path a little bit, and let's just talk a little bit about Hawkeye, because full disclosure, we just finally watched the second episode. We watched the first episode, then we had things to do and packing to do and everything like that. So we just watched the second episode. Okay, so first of all, let's just kind of go around. You don't have to go in depth or anything, but are you enjoying it so far? Only 2 episodes in. Are you enjoying it? And I suppose, where would you put it right now with the other Marvel TV series? And maybe that's not fair after only 2 episodes, but at this stage of the game, where would you rank it? Fredo?
I would, right now, I mean, it's coming in behind Wanda. And but let's put it this way, after 2 episodes, I was a bit more hooked into WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and even Loki. I mean, definitely Loki. So I would still put it behind those 3. I'm liking it. I'm interested in it. The concept's very interesting. The execution, though, is somewhat a bit too superfluous. I mean, the whole idea behind it.
Don't go too far. Don't go too. We're going to stop you right there, because you might be getting into my beef, and we might get into that a little bit. So,
okay.
Getting into my beef, that sounded bad. Dave?
Honestly, the last few days have been a blur. So, I think we tried to watch it night it was released, and I was running around the house doing chores and everything else during the watch, so I didn't watch it super closely. So that's my caveat. But what I saw, I liked, and I think. Okay, so I like the tone. I'll say that. I like the tone so far.
So, all right. So here's first of all, I'm enjoying it. I would also, I will say, how if we're just going with the first couple episodes, the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, I remember, this is almost a direct quote: "This better go someplace, or I'm going to be really ticked off here pretty soon." Because after those first 2 episodes, it was like, what is this? So I would not put it, if I'm just going for the first 2 episodes. For me, it'd probably go Falcon, Winter Soldier, probably Loki, and then Hawkeye, and then Wanda. Now, that order is probably going to switch, like I said, as the series goes on. But here's my thing, because being new to the Marvel, universe, as listeners here know, here's my beef. I don't think Clint is ever referred to as Hawkeye in any of the movies. Maybe if it was, that it didn't stick for very long. And here's my other, and you guys can correct me, I'll give you my other beef here, is Endgame. This whole Ronin thing, they're assuming a heck of a lot in this Hawkeye episode, thinking that because we know that, Hawkeye was kind of went on this ninja tear, but I don't think they ever mentioned the name Well, it's in subtitles, I think, but they're assuming that you understand where this Ronin came from and what and everything. It was in Endgame. It was just kind of like, oh, he's a ninja now. Okay, now he's with them. All right, we're done with that. And now there's a whole series that's kind of wrapped around this thing. And I guess so. I'm not as emotionally hooked as they probably want me to be, and I think that's their own fault.
Yeah, no, I guess what I would say is, and yeah, no, you're right. I mean, in terms of connective tissue, the only thing that's connecting us to Endgame. I mean, I did love the scene in the musical. No, it was Rogers the musical. Where
Yeah.
now again, having just seen theater, I was like, at some point, yeah, the Avengers Battle of New York would be the musical, and they would shoehorn other Avengers that weren't necessarily there. I also do agree with you in regards to the connections to Ronin. I mean, here's the one issue that I'm having: the way that they're displaying or showing the gangs that show up the moment that somebody turns up looking like Ronin uh, doesn't hit me as, oh, because I mean, okay, let me backtrack. The way that is presented in Endgame is that after his family gets snapped away by Thanos, by the way, spoiler alert for a movie that's a couple years old now. Uh, Clint goes on this massive anti-organized crime crusade, a one-man army, tearing and ripping through gangs and syndicates all around the world. And then when he gets recruited to go on the time heist, he drops that, and then he gets his family back. So again, makes sense that for that, he went for a 5-year crusade to destroy organized crime, did a good job, but he made a lot of enemies as that persona. So the fact that that costume comes back into presence while he's in New York, okay, it's an interesting hook. It's a good way to rope in the fact that he wasn't necessarily the guy that his kids and his wife know in that time, which again makes sense. He was going through some serious trauma, and this is how he was dealing with it. But I guess I'm not getting why the bad guy, or at least the what's that they call
Oh,
the gang that was coming out,
the sweatsuits,
The
yeah,
tracksuits.
the
tracksuits.
tracksuit
Yeah.
mafia. They're a bit too comical for what they're supposed suggesting they are. Meaning, these are the guys who survived Ronan's assault and who all have like a blood feud oath to kill him on sight, to respond to his presence as, okay, we stop whatever crime we're doing, we gotta go take this guy out. And they're all being kind of goofy and silly about it, which is kind of the only thing that's kind of, doing my head in.
I like the tone though, and I think the tracksuit guys make sense for the story that they are trying to tell here, which is a little bit more of a lighthearted adventure.
It's a buddy cop. It's a buddy cop.
Buddy cop passing of the torch, which I think we can assume is going to happen at some point.
With Kate Bishop, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, I think, and again, with the holiday theme and the whole Die Hard-ish sort of interplay between characters, I think the idea there is solid. But again, the Ronin stuff is a little weird and clumsily handled in the same way that some of the Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff seemed like it went through some rewrites and it maybe didn't land where it necessarily should have. And in that way, I kind of agree with you guys. This is, it's not shoehorned in because I think it's a really important part of his character at this point. After what we saw in Endgame, it's like, okay, well, there should be consequences for him in some way, shape, or form for this lifestyle that he lived, and we should probably do a little deeper dive on that and what it would mean for him and how does it going to affect him going forward? How's it going to affect his family? Things like this. They are a little weightier than
what they want to think.
Yeah. But again, it's hard to just ignore it too at the same time. I don't think you can just say, well, that never happened.
My issue is that I think they're assuming that they gave enough exposition. or that, okay, so let's put this into like all those people who went and watched WandaVision who never saw one Marvel, movie ever, and they ended up liking WandaVision. This one, there's that whole, bit where it's like if somebody just walked into, I'm just going to watch this, see what it is. I mean, like I said, there's just a big assumption, even for those of us who've seen those movies, because in Endgame, it's just a brushing, only a couple minutes. I mean, yeah, he gives enough to say he did some awful stuff, and then he's been, there's the back and forth between Rhodey and Natasha, about he's not the same dude and all this other stuff. But I don't know. That's my whole thing, is that it's just seems, and then everybody's like, "You're Hawkeye." That's the thing that I think where I've heard Hawkeye more is in the SNL skit, where he runs out of arrows, but
right, because I'm trying to think. In Avengers, they don't refer to him as Hawkeye, and Age of Ultron didn't refer to him as Hawkeye. Actually, no. Linda, his wife,
she calls him Hawkeye.
She calls him Hawkeye, but she
calls his daughter Hawkeye.
Manner. Right. She does it in a playful manner. It's not meant to be, "Oh, you're Hawkeye." It's like, "You're Hawkeye." She's playing off of whatever code name he's got with the Avengers. But really, that's about it in terms of actually establishing him as that identity for one, but also the dynamic. I do agree with you, Dave. I mean, they're going for a very lighthearted, Christmassy. It's like something out of Shane Black. It's much more Lethal Weapon 2,
Iron Man 3,
Iron Man 3. Where we're gonna have some fun. There's gonna be some scary moments, but we're gonna have a good time here. And look, I mean, the opening scene with I love the opening scene where they established where Kate Bishop's dad passes away in the middle of the Battle of New York from Avengers. I love it when they can circle back around and show us those big moments from other characters' point of view.
Yeah.
And then just kind of show how that influenced her, how seeing him leap, take that, big CGI shot that they gave him in Avengers, seeing it from her perspective, has influenced her into trying to be something like that. So they've done a good job of at least establishing her character, the sliminess of the guy coming after her mom, et cetera. So again, right now they're playing with broad strokes. So we'll see how they can refine things.
So, I mean, yeah. And we got, the other big scuttlebutt, by the way, and I want everybody listening to this, it should not be a surprise to anyone. This has become Disney Plus's MO, that the debut, you're going to get almost 2 hours of The Mandalorian, then the rest of the episodes are going to be about 25 minutes long. And so you get about an hour and a half of Hawkeye right off the bat. And now the big people are ticked off because it's leaking that like the next couple episodes are going to be about 25 minutes long. It's like your normal half-hour show on, network TV minus commercials is 22 minutes, folks. So, I mean, I think that's kind of interesting, and maybe it's for a topic for a different day. But people's expectations for, especially when we're saying these are TV versions of Star Wars and the MCU. Is there an expectation that I should be getting, an hour and a half every episode? We can leave that as kind of a rhetorical question.
I was just going to say right quick, because it's funny, because the other complaint that I heard about Disney Plus over the holiday weekend was regarding the Beatles documentary, Get Back, which dropped the same weekend. And everybody's like, it's only 3 episodes, but they're each 2.5 hours long. And everybody's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're so... Yeah, exactly. The look you just gave, Aaron, is the look everybody's giving at hearing that. And you're like, but then you see it cut. I mean, remember, it's directed by Peter Jackson. So he knew exactly what he was doing. And when you see the first episode, you go, okay, he's giving you a particular piece of this story.
And there was 50 hours of video that, I mean, was already sitting there. So it's not like there was any production. It was all editing. Well, I guess, and we can get into all this a little bit later, but yes, it just drives me a little bit bonkers. These episodes the debut is going to be a lot of minutes, and then the subsequent episodes are going to be on the short side. So just just let it go.
Perfect for Disney, right? Let it go.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. All right. Well, how about we start talking Star Wars again? Fredo, you want to get us into the news?
Well, yeah, actually, I'll get you on the news on a bit of news that dropped today. There's been a whole lot of casting stuff. Actually, a few things of casting, namely Ahsoka. So, first thing today, been about 6 hours ago or so. Deadline dropped that actress Ivana Sakno is going to join Disney Plus in a newly created character for the series. She's been in stuff like Pacific Rim Uprising and a few other things, but she's joining Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. And then, of course, Deadline also dropped a few days ago that Natasha Liu Bordiso is joining Ahsoka as Sabine Wren. So they had that about a week or so ago. So they cast her as opposite Rosario Dawson, and I'm trying to think, just regarding, they're calling it a limited series. They're not saying how long the commitment is for more than one season, but right now what Deadline's saying is that Rosario Dawson's locked in. There's going to be an appearance by Hayden Christensen, obviously, and then so first they said Natasha Liu Bordiso is going to join as Sabine Wren.
Have you? And let's pause there real quick. Have either of you seen her in anything?
I was going to tell you that she's been on stuff like Netflix, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Sword of Destiny, Crazy About You, The Voyeurs, Hotel Mumbai, and The Society. So I haven't put it that way.
I haven't either.
Yeah, me neither. It's an interesting choice. We always talk about, are you going to cast the person who did the voice for them in the animated series or not? And in this case, they did not go that direction.
And I'm gonna pause on that one because I listen to other podcasts where I've gone down that road to where I really have latched on to Tia Serkar's voice as Sabine, but the only reason, I shouldn't say the only reason, Katie Sackhoff was cast as Bo-Katan because Bo-Katan was modeled after Katie Sackhoff, and actually would work out to be about the right age, at this time period. So it all worked out. Not everything else works out. So, people want Taylor Gray to be Ezra Bridger. Well, that's not maybe going to, work out. Or, Vanessa Marshall as Hera, if she's going to be there. I don't know. So, I think just the Katie Sackhoff thing was a special deal. That's Dave. I'm sorry I interrupted you, as I always do.
She looks a lot like the character's modeled after her, right? And so I think like for her, it made a lot of sense. But I agree with you. I don't think it's smart for fans to like get attached to a particular actor for a role. The original trilogy characters is a little different, right?
Well, but here you're also going. There's a little bit of fudge factor going from animation to live action. If you're going live action to live action, then I mean that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a different thing. It really
tough.
is. Because, like you said, there's artistic license when you're dealing with animated versions of the characters, and that's how you can justify. When you do it in reverse, when you go from animated to live action, you say, well, here is the real version, all right?
And what's funny is going from animated or going from real live action to animated. It's like the What If series, the Marvel What If. Like none of those actors sounded like themselves. They didn't sound like their characters. I was like, that's Sebastian Stan. It's like none of them sounded like their characters from the movies. But anyway, keep going.
It's like they pulled the audio out of like just random conversations that we were having over the course of their day, and it was just like, just here's a word, here's a word, here's a word, he is going the other way. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, but no, I think, it's silly to get too attached to a particular actor in these cases. I think it's okay to be hopeful and saying, "Oh, I really hope they go this direction." But what we've seen is like more often than not, they will use that artistic license that they have to try to cast the best possible actor that they think encapsulates the character.
And it also comes down to money. I mean, it's
Yeah.
uh, so Ivana Sacco is going to be playing a
whole new character.
whole new
Yeah,
character,
she's
so
been,
it's pointless to speculate.
right. She just literally just announced today that she is going to be joining. Two things I was going to say. First of all, I mean, I agree with Dave regarding, I mean, just the reality of casting a character. There's a lot that goes into it. Sometimes it's scheduling, like you said. Sometimes it's money. I will say though, so far in terms of casting, I can't think of one role that Lucasfilm has gotten as poorly that I go, oh God, they shouldn't have gone there anywhere near that. They don't reflect that character. I think they've done really well. The other thing I was going to say is the one we still have not heard, the long rumored Mina Massoud as Ezra Bridger confirmation. That's been playing for what, 2 years now, just about.
So
ever since he kind of threw his hat in the ring.
So that's my question, and this is not.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Resistance Broadcast was talking about this, and why do you think? So I'm going to pose it to here, like I said, giving them credit, but I think it's good. Why do we get the drip of this person's playing this role, and then there's a couple weeks pass or a month passes, now this person's playing this role, and a couple months pass? Why don't they do what they did with Obi-Wan and just one social media post, boom, here's your cast?
Well, that had drip too. I mean, I don't know if that was an intentional thing. I think it was mostly just news leaks. But over time,
there's always going to be somebody, spoilers or leaks or whatnot. But this is again, I mean, we're releasing one little thing at a time, and I don't know. It seems to be goofy to me.
David said it in the past regarding how Disney in general is pretty good about managing the message, and they know full well that one way to keep the show or keep their products in the forefront of their minds is, hey, here comes this bit of news that gets you excited. Hey, here comes this interview piece, and hey, here comes this magazine, or here comes this trailer, and this is just part of the not game, but the managing of the audience that Disney does so well. There's a mechanism to go, okay, we're gonna give you a bit of news, keeps you excited, keeps you informed that it's coming. But once you start drilling into it, there's not much. Okay, they cast two actresses, one to play a major role that we know of, one to play a role we have no idea whether it's major or minor. Okay, it might come to something, it might come to nothing, it might be, but the core is they're letting you know the show is coming, and
let's all remember,
making sure the excitement level stays at a good enough simmer.
Let's all remember that George Clooney was the voice to Cartman's cat in South Park. So
that's right. And you got to find a way to keep everybody excited and involved.
Jerry Seinfeld was a turkey. Yeah.
So, yeah. By the way, I googled limited series just as a term in the industry, and it just means that there isn't a predetermined end date. Okay. It does not mean that it's just necessarily one season, or multiple seasons. It could be anything, but they have a complete story in mind. They have a set episode number in mind. And that's what that means.
By the way, I'm gonna hijack the bullets here for a second, because it's you were just talking about how Disney manages the message pretty well. Back in Nebraska this weekend, and I made mention of, or my father-in-law said, so when's season 3 of The Mandalorian coming out? And because he and my mother-in-law watched The Mandalorian, they really enjoyed it. I said, well, it's probably not going to come out, for a while. They haven't really even started filming it. But I said, Book of Boba Fett comes out, the end of December. He's like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
Book of Boba Fett? And I said, well,
Well,
it's, I said, it's, I went on to explain it. And he's like, well, is it animated? I said, no, it's, it's the same people that were in the man. So he was like trying to wrap his brain around so they may think that they're, marketing Book of Boba Fett really well. And because they're calling it something different and it's not the Mandalorian, are people going to, watch it? So I don't know.
well, funny you said that because we got a new teaser trailer dropped on Saturday for Book of
We
Boba
did.
Fett.
We did.
So it's only 30 seconds.
And I haven't watched it yet, actually, because I'm trying to. I'm actually stepping away because I kind of want just.
There's nothing new in there.
I mean, it's mostly most of the footage. There may have been a scene or two that are different, But the thing what's interesting, they put it because I did see it. Again, I was watching a lot of college football over the weekend, so I did see it in front of a couple of the big ESPN broadcast games, and then I saw it on last night on their Monday Night Football. So they made sure to put that trailer or that teaser. I think they called it the rain teaser before during major broadcasts. So they're going to get the message. And I imagine that if they haven't heard of it, we're going to get bombarded with it now. I mean, the other big thing that came out last week, which we'll get a couple of stories bit out of, was there was this big Empire Magazine article with Boba Fett on the cover.
Sure.
So, they're making sure to know that it's coming. And actually, that's where the next bit of news came out, which was they were discussing Rangers of the New Republic. That long mentioned show that was supposed to come out that got announced the same time as Ahsoka.
Fredo, can I jump in with one quick thing? Just because I think it's important to now before we just completely drop the casting thing with Natasha. She is ethnic, and that was a thing. That was a big thing for a lot of people. Like, they wanted somebody who was Asian to play that character, and she is. And so again, I'm not saying that was the reason she was cast or whatever, but I think for a lot of people, they wanted some representation there. And so that's happening. And I think that's a positive thing, that at least from where we're sitting, that in general inclusion is a positive thing. So I want to give them some credit for that. Before we move on.
When you look at the cast, I mean, you're looking the main lead, Ahsoka, is a Latinx, a Latina woman, and now the second lead, co-star is an Asian woman. Should Mina Masood be cast, been rumored since forever, that would be a man of Middle Eastern descent. So again, it's sometimes they're not doing it to do that. They're not doing it to go, okay, we're just casting to be diverse.
No, they're doing it to make Josh Hawley lose his lunch,
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, they're looking to get the best actor. If that best actor or actress is somebody who, again, represents people who have not historically seen themselves in a Star Wars movie, all to the better. But ultimately, no, the first thing that has to be fit is this actor or actress right for this role? Yes, okay. And again, we don't know. I mean, most, outside of Rosario Dawson, most of these actors have been seen in smaller productions, TV shows, So we'll have to see. And again, just because they're good doesn't necessarily mean they might be good for this part. But we're trusting that because they've been able to get good actors.
But
for
guys,
their shows.
sorry, I've got to put my foot down. Where are white males going to find their representation in movies? Where are they going to go to? They're losing all of their heroes. They're losing all of their. That was all facetious, everybody. That was all sarcastic. Exactly. All sarcastic. But those are arguments that people make online, that it's there's going to be nobody. It's, there was one, actually, my wife was reading it to me. There was somebody actually complained that argument, saying that that men are going to start turning to crime or something, it's because they're not going to be represented in this media. And she's like, so why haven't then women, been like, on murderous rampages for, the last century? Yeah. It's like, yeah, people
The
exhaust.
last point I'll make about Rebels is that those characters, the way that they're portrayed, gave them the freedom to go that direction. It wasn't a requirement, I don't think. Like, you could have gone, yeah, well, we'll cast this actor, who's got more of a Caucasian background or whatever. Like, you had a lot of flexibility there. But I think, like, what some people, like, maybe they get hung up on this would miss is that it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for inclusion. And it's like there's certain characters that people are going to be weird about forever. If Bond is not a white man or whatever, they're going to riot in the streets. And it's like, well, okay, so that's the background of that character. These characters are like they come from different ethnicities. So it's like, yeah, you could have whitewashed the whole thing, and I don't think it would have been the worst thing that would have ever happened if you got a good actor in the role. But it was an opportunity to not do that. And when your track record isn't so good,
yeah,
then you should take those opportunities when you have them.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it makes a galaxy far, far away rather boring or bland if it's all on people. And I'll also say we are getting Hayden Christensen. So, hey, white dudes, you're still in there. Even if he's a Force Ghost. So it'll be a white, bluish dude.
Biggest villain in the galaxy.
There you go.
Moving on. So, as I was saying, there was a big article on Empire, actually, headline regarding Book of Boba Fett coming, and they had an interview in there with Kathleen Kennedy. So they asked her about, what's going on with Star Wars and the upcoming plans for the shows, and they touched on the topic of Rangers of the New Republic. And while officially Disney has not announced the cancellation of the show, she did say this. This is her quote. We'd never written any scripts or anything on that. Some of that, meaning the story ideas that they had for Rangers, will figure into future episodes, I'm sure, of The Mandalorian, end quote. So again, the idea being the stories or ideas that they had for what Rangers would have been, even if it's not dead, might transition into Mandalorian.
Well, goody gumdrops. We'll never know. I mean, it's... so we'll just never know. I just find that kind of interesting that she went out of her way to say that.
Because she was asked. She's in an interview.
But still, she could have just left it. There were no scripts written for that. So end of sentence. But it seems like, boy, there were like all 15 people really excited for Rangers of the New Republic. I got to throw them some sort of bone that, okay, those storylines are going to be woven in somewhere else. It's, I don't know. It just seemed kind of goofy. Dave's got an ornery look on his face.
She doesn't have to tell that to us. She may have to tell that to her bosses at Disney. Like, oh yeah, we spent all this money getting these scripts together and lining all this stuff up, and it's not money wasted. We're gonna reuse some of this stuff, but she doesn't need to tell that to us. Like you said, like we're not gonna know the difference where some of this stuff was intended to appear originally. And I know that like Lucas has all this material that he's stockpiled over the years that hasn't been touched. That's probably in a vault somewhere.
Talk about things in a vault that I would rather be released before the scripts for Rangers of the New Republic, and that's like all the Prince backlog that he has,
Oh yeah,
that Paisley Park has, all the videos and music that he just wrote and just put away, never released. So
oh my gosh, and so much stuff like that out there, like musicians, like Nintendo does that too. Nintendo's really notorious. Like they'll complete a game and they'll just be like, we're not super happy with it, so we're just not going to release it. So, like there's like I'm guessing Zelda games and
I
Mario
just
titles in a vault somewhere that no one's ever seen.
I just found it really interesting that, I mean, it would be different if it was like the Book of Boba Fett gets canceled, and then she's like, "Hey, but a lot of these storylines are going to be woven into the Mandalorian." Then you're like, "Okay, phew, I'm going to get some Boba Fett stuff." But the Rangers of the New Republic, who cares? I mean, I'm one of the biggest Star Wars fans you'll ever meet. I mean, but that was the one. I'm just like, who cares? I mean,
Says the man in the Star Wars room.
right. But it's okay. Good. Okay. It's gonna get woven in. Wonderful. Does that mean
No,
that
no,
we're
no.
going to get Dave Filoni in his X-wing pilot outfit
Couple
again?
of-
So
Mhm.
I don't mean to be like really pissy and moany
I
about it,
think
but I don't know.
no. The one thing I was gonna no. The one thing I was gonna say is it's interesting. I mean, we did see some sort of kind of setup for the idea of Rangers back when they did those few episodes where the X-wing pilots were kind of keeping a track, an eye on Din Djarin, where forget his name, has that moment with Cara Dune on Tatooine. So there are a few moments that kind of hint at the idea, but that could just as easily be paid off in Mandalorian season 3, Mandalorian season 4. We
Or
don't expect that
a
Mando.
comic series. Do
Yeah,
it as a comic
yeah.
series. I mean,
There's plenty of ways to tell those stories that don't necessarily involve creating a whole new show. And look, like I said, Disney hasn't officially said it's done, it's over. They may retool it, redesign it. That may be what they're working, and say, look, whatever those ideas, we really can't use those no more. So we're gonna shove them into this show that we know they fit in and do the whole new thing here. So a lot of this stuff is just part of the creative process that people don't realize happens, has always happened. And they're like, you sold me this. It's like, no, that was never the final product.
so
You just got to look behind the scenes at how the kinky got made, so to speak.
so get to the other thing that Kathleen Kennedy said, and because I found this one really interesting as well.
Mm,
Her
it,
about the sequel characters.
so in that same article, let me pull up the quote. They start asking about, well, they start discussing how now they're making a TV show about Ahsoka. They're bringing back Boba Fett. So it's an interesting discussion they're having about characters, Star Wars characters, kind of coming back and getting an opportunity to uh, be a presence in front of an audience that has been looking forward to them. So they ask her about the sequel characters, and here's her quote. It's well, first of all, they started talking about the reunion that Hayden Christensen had with with Ewan McGregor while they were filming Obi-Wan Kenobi. And she goes, I was surprised at just how incredibly emotional it was for each of them to find themselves in these roles and just how important Star Wars was to each of them. So she's discussing the idea of, hey, these characters were very important in these people's lives. So when they get to the idea of characters like Rey, Poe, Finn coming back around, she goes, quote, certainly those are not characters we're going to forget. They will live on, and those are conversations that are going on with the creative team as well. End quote.
All right. So Aaron's hot take on this one is that she's doing the same thing that people in a band do. It's like when somebody comes up and makes a request, your answer is never no. Your answer is always, yeah, we'll play that in the next set. Or we might play that one later.
Put $5 in the bucket.
Because you don't want to send somebody off, all mad and so I would be very, 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 very surprised if we get anything with Rey, Poe, and Finn outside of like a comic book or a book. I would be really surprised if we get those three actors, those three characters back on film again.
It's all about
Well,
cost. It's about the cost benefit.
Well, no. Well, it's also about it's this because people who are listening, they might be going, "What did you think the same thing about Han, Luke, and Leia?" No, because everybody was over the moon about the original trilogy, and I know everyone. Okay, not everyone, but there was much different crowd reaction to those three movies as there were to the sequel movies. And I don't know if there's going to be that people aren't going to be slobbering to see those three characters back on the film. Like
okay, so I'll jump right in there.
And it also seems like those three actors really don't want anything to do with.
They'll change their mind. It's Harrison Ford, like you throw enough money at Harrison Ford, he'll come back, right? And he'll come back twice. So like Hayden Christensen, perfect example, right? A lot of people weren't super happy about his performance. From our generation, I should say, mostly. But even the younger set, because a lot of that stuff was colored from our generation too. But I just didn't like his performance, or I didn't think he was so good. Flash forward to now, he goes out and he makes an appearance at Celebration, and he is warmly received. And I think like that was a bit of a test for this Obi-Wan series. Like, do the fans are they still into this idea of having him back? Yes. And so I think time sort of heals all wounds. And on both sides, like if the fans aren't as attached to the material, they grow more attached over time. And I think with the actors, if they feel like, it was an unsatisfactory experience, they warm to the idea of returning the longer the time passes, I think. And especially, again, we saw it with Harrison. They backloaded. they backed up the money truck to his house and dumped it all out.
All right. So I'm gonna so first of all, put my statement in a time capsule and bury it in the ground, then dig it up in 30 years, and we'll find out. But there is a big difference here, is that Harris, of the three, and not to take anything away from Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, but if you put their acting career, on movies versus Harrison Ford, it's different than Oscar Isaac and Daisy Ridley and even John Boyega a little bit, because Mark Hamill went off and did some of his voice, a lot of voice acting. Granted, Carrie Fisher did a lot of script writing, script doctoring, things like that. But her film appearance, it wasn't like Harrison Ford, who is putting out movie after movie after movie after movie, and I don't need Star Wars for anything. So if Oscar Isaac, Daisy Ridley, and John Boyega start building their careers and you start seeing more movies come out, I don't think that they're going to really need to do Star Wars. And even if you chuck money, but anyway, it's not to say that I don't want to see that. Something tells me that I don't think. It seemed like Kathleen Kennedy was again saying, "Yeah, we'll play Brown Eyed Girl next set."
But we know where I'll disagree in what way. You know where Hayden Christensen was before he turned up at Celebration? He was on a farm. He bought a big old farm outside Toronto in Canada, and he was like, "Look, he was just chilling in his farm." And then one day they called him up to be at Celebration, and he turned up, and the reaction that he got, the warmth and the love that he got after, being away from so long, kind of jump started the idea of him coming back to play this role. So, like, of the three actors, I mean, and we were very heard in some way, shape, or form from some of these actors. Like Oscar Isaac's already said that unless they help him buy a new mansion, he's not coming back. But he also signed up to play Moon Knight, so he's an actor. He wants to get paid. John Boyega has talked about some of the issues he's had with Disney and Lucasfilm, and there's been some sort of mending of the fences there. There might still be of the three. I think he might be the most eager to come back, more than anything to do the role justice. I think of the three, he might feel like the one that really got the short end out of episode 9 and may want to tell the finish of his story in a better way. Daisy, it's interesting. She's been in some stuff, but hasn't been in a lot. So, but all this is in the lens of 2021. Mm-hmm. If somebody had asked you in 2005 about bringing back Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen for a TV series, you might have said yes. but you also might have gone like, no, we're done. This story's over. Why do we need to keep it going? So um, I think we might all just be waiting for the next Dave Filoni TV show that's going to act the way that Clone Wars acted for the prequel generation, the way that this is going to act for the sequel generation. You
Maybe.
know, a lot of this stuff we're looking at it as OT fans, thinking, wow, I don't know if necessarily this will appeal to people or but the kids who grew up with it, who grew up with dressing up as Rey, who dressed up as Finn, who dressed up as Kylo Ren, they might in 15, 20, 15 years, 10 years, be the ones clamoring for their return. And again, if Disney's still around, if we're all still around, and Disney still got all the money in the universe, they might just throw enough of it at those actors to go, come back.
Again, and it's cynical, Aaron. But again, I'm reading these quotes from her as with a huge grain of salt, because it is, to me, it is she is a great businesswoman, and she's not dumb enough to say, no, we're not doing anything with those characters. We're done.
Yeah.
Or the Rangers of the New Republic. I almost swore on this show. The heck with that stuff. She again. It's like, will you play Brown Eyed Girl? Yeah, we're going to try to work that in for you. I mean, that it's, or if you don't, or you even take it a step further, it's like, okay, hey, you know what? We don't know that one, but we're going to work it up for our next gig next week. So come back and we'll play, Brown Eyed Girl next week. And that person comes back, so it's, I mean, I'm not saying that you lie, but you string some people along, and she's not going to say, no, we're done with those, or, nope, we're done with that.
Aaron, I agree that she's playing the diplomat. I agree with that 100%. She's not going to come out and say something definitive that will make her look like an idiot later on, right? There's no way. But I do think, I know how these situations tend to play out. I think the Star Wars fandom is large enough and vocal enough to get things done in a way. We're going to see. I think the ultimate test might be Solo 2, right? Make Solo 2 happen.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see if that hashtag leads anywhere. But they've gotten projects off the ground through sheer enthusiasm. And I think if there's a hunger for bringing these characters back, and I think that there will be, that it's going to make sense for Disney eventually to make it happen. And again, I don't know what the time frame on that will look like. It may be 5 years, it may be 20. But I think, if you're saying, oh, let's lay odds on this, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and well, I'll agree with you. I mean, absolutely right. Kathleen Kennedy is president, just extended to continue her run, overseeing Lucasfilm, which is not a small seat at the Disney stable. So she's never going to say no, because the fact of the matter is that's the dumbest way you can go about running a business. You hear what your audience is asking you, or you hear something that potentially your audience may want, and you say, we'll look into it and leave it at that. And then, because the fact of the matter is, it's not going to be just Kathleen Kennedy saying yay or nay whether or not it happens. It takes a collective effort. She might say, yeah, let's do it, but they may never find the right writer, producer, director, again, all the stuff that kind of comes into creating a show. This is the money people might say we're ready to go, but the creative people might not be ready to make it all happen, and it doesn't happen. So
I'll continue to be the ever cynic here. And I mean, you're right, Dave, time heals all wounds. But it's because what I'm looking at here is if they were to do this in the near future, and I'm and I mean 5 to 10 years, something like that. It's how do you create a story that doesn't make it seem like you're trying to right the wrongs of the sequel trilogy? Because they had this trio of characters that had the potential of being an incredible ensemble, and they split them up for 2/3 of the trilogy. What Rey and Poe interact only in the last movie, for any length of time. Then you have the Finn's story being shortchanged. So let's give him his series. And is that because that's a story that is worth telling, or is it because we're making up for screwing him in that trilogy? And then, so that's my thing. And I'm sure they're recognizing this as well. It's like, how do we do this without making it look like we're trying to, saying, oh, they screwed up, so we're going to try to fix it here. But anyway, then the alarm went off. But so you guys keep being the positive optimists. I will be the yang to your yin, and then be the little cynicism in there. Maybe it's because I haven't drank enough whiskey yet. But anyway.
So I guess because the alarm's gone off, I'll mention just one last bit of news briefly that may make you feel happier about not spending all that money on what was it call it? Star Wars. Gulag,
Star Wars Prison.
Star Wars Prison.
Star Wars Prison.
Did you watch any of the they give a little preview where you're walking through it? It just looks claustrophobic. Oh my god! But okay, go on.
Well, no. What was the biggest selling point do you think that was for the Star Wars Prison?
Was lightsaber
sabacc tournaments?
Well, no. Go with Dave's answer.
Shuffleboard on the Lido deck. I don't know.
Yeah, shuffleboard with Greedo. No, the lightsaber.
Imagine the swimming pool with all the aliens. That could be fun.
It was like gumbo, seafood gumbo. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, a slight tangent. I saw a video today, Dave. You know how long the line of the Resistance is to get into a Disneyland?
Oh no!
Yeah, guess.
Well, they did away with the reserving thing. So,
guess how long that line was to get in.
It's the ride, so I'm gonna say 3+ hours.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, no, actually better than it was 90 minutes. It was
90. Wow,
that's not bad.
So what this person said is the line apparently snaked through 2 other lands in Disneyland.
Well, okay, yeah. But they're still, I think, still doing a little social distancing and stuff like that, and trying to keep people from being on top of each other.
That line was crowded.
Well, it's still 90 minutes for a Disney ride. I mean.
Basically it was like from the time you got onto the end of the line to the time you walked out Rise of the Resistance, it was about what this person posting this online said, it was about 1 hour and 47 minutes.
I'll give them credit. If it's under 2 hours, that's not as bad as it could have been, because that's the high end typically.
When you start seeing them pushing 110 minutes, it's like, I'm not going on that.
I'm not doing that 100 minutes. Yeah. It's like anything over an hour, you're like, well, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. But that being the hottest ride in the park, I understand.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that's the crapshoot on that ride, is that it breaks down constantly. They're shutting it down constantly. That's the thing that worries me when we're going in May, because I'm going to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to pay $15 or whatever it is to get my ticket and then go about my day. And whenever I get on the Rise of Resistance, I go. Because, I mean, that's a bar tab, so that's fine. But if I was waiting in line for 110 minutes for, about over 2 hours or whatever, and then they say, sorry, folks, park's closed. Moose outside should have told you. I'd go all Clark Griswold on somebody, if
Gungan should have told you this ride breaks.
If that ride broke down, as I got up to the door, I would go all Clark Griswold, probably get a BB gun, across the street.
That's part of the experience, though. I'm telling you now, if you haven't been in a while, you're going to get into a line that'll take you 30, 45, 50 minutes to get to the front, and the thing will break down just as you get up to the front. That's part of the experience.
But the reason I bring it up, not only because it was topical and I saw the video today, but also because, remember, that's one of the selling points on your 2-day excursion on Galactic Star Cruiser, right?
Yeah.
It's part of you're timed on the clock. You get, you debark your Star Cruiser, you land at Batuu, you go about your day. You will get a ride on Rise to the Resistance as part of your plan, of your ticket, of the ticket you bought, right?
Yeah.
So what happens? How are you going to tell those people, okay, move out the way? We got the people who spent $5,000 a year. That's going to get awful. Anyway, so the big selling point really was the lightsaber, but Disney kind of came out and confirmed that, no, you are not going to get to even try the real retractable lightsaber.
No touchy. What did I
They
tell
told
you?
GameSpot and IGN, yeah, unfortunately, the lightsaber isn't for guests to use or purchase. It is strictly for use by the performers. And it was
However,
confirmed. Mhm.
I'm sorry, Dave's got 3 kids, all 10 and under, right? Did I get their ages right?
Yeah.
If you give them a fake lightsaber, the first thing they're going to do is swing at somebody's shins and try to beat the crap out of somebody. But yeah, I mean, they're going to start swinging at something. So you're not going to give this, real lightsaber to a 7-year-old kid and say, now be gentle.
So what they say that will happen is, because remember, part of the Star Cruiser experience is you're going to get some lightsaber training. So what GameSpot's been told is, it says, instead you'll be given what feels like a high-end yet slimmed down version of the lightsaber with a fixed blade. You powered it up, and all sounds and vibrations you'd expect are there. But if you walk in expecting to get to play with the new one, this is your warning. The session involves using the provided lightsabers to deflect laser beams fired by a wall-mounted training remote. Starts off slow and then ramps up to Jedi level where you're forced to block attacks without even seeing the lightsaber. So you don't get to swing it at anybody else.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to do Beat Saber.
Yeah, basically. That's what it sounds like.
You're going to put a VR helmet. No, your blast shield's down, son. That's what it's going to be. It's going to put on this helmet, and then it's going to be, going to give you a couple lightsaber hilts. And anyway, sorry. I'm just...
The more you hear, and the less enthusiastic you are about spending $5,000 for this, huh?
Man, I haven't been even... nothing has even made me go, maybe. No, nothing at all. I'm sorry, this doesn't sound enjoyable at all.
So you don't get to swing the real lightsaber. Sorry. So there was one last bit of news, but we can get onto it some other time if needs be.
We will put that last bit of news, that little Andor bit, we'll finish it off in another episode, giving you an excuse. It's like Kathleen Kennedy. It gives you an excuse to, come back and watch more Star Wars, come back and listen to more podcasts so you hear more about Andor, because that was fun. But I guess before the power goes out again, we're just going to real quick say, who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
And beat the Cowboys, and we will see you guys all later.
McConkey.